start recording as well. So here we go. Today we are going to discuss about the security testing for the mobile and web applications. But we will link this security testing for the mobile and web applications with the aspect of how the gaps are there, how the weaknesses are there, how we need to go for the testing with respect to the secure software testing, and we will try to learn that how these vulnerabilities are, these issues are there, and how the hackers they are trying to exploit these things. Becoming a good security engineer, becoming a good planner means if you want to safe and secure your software, so the must and the first and the most important thing is that you have to think like the hackers about your own software, and you try to see that if suppose you are a hacker, how you can exploit the things with your software, because this thing can actually help you to let you know the different possible ways that these could be the means issues can be raised in case if suppose any experienced hacker is going to trying to damage your software. After doing this approach can give you actually the right ways, the right points, the right doors, that these are the real weaknesses are vulnerabilities, and then you will be able to address them accordingly. So this is what we are doing, is actually we are trying to means know the things that what could be the possible reasons are there and how we can address them later on. So in this way, today we will discuss about the two things, focusing about the two things. One is about the mobile application. We can consider any Android or iOS, that's not an issue. And the second thing is about the web browsing. So actually we are considering that web browsing, it doesn't mean that we are considering the website, but you know that most of the applications, they are using the first hand as the web interface, while the real application is running at the database. So for this, we have to have the secure coding as well. And for the same, at the same point of view, we have to have the secure coding for our mobile applications as well. So first of all, we try in the first phase, we will try to see that what could be the risks are there in case if suppose the secure mechanism is not handled properly. And then we will see that what are the possible ways that means hacker they can exploit. And then later we can see that how then we can address them during the development of the program, or during the development of the coding, writing the coding. That is for the program or as well as for the mobile application. So now here we can see that what are the possible risks. So if we just think for the possible risks, everybody can means say that, okay, maybe my mobile will be hacked, or maybe if suppose my application is not secure, the code is not done secure, so then my application can be means stolen, or can be hacked, or can be misbehaving. But actually the people, they are not knowing the real threats. So we just try to pinpoint the few of the threats that in case if suppose the application is going to be compromised, then in that particular case, what type of the things, what type of the issues could be raised. So you can see from here, for example, if suppose this is the issue, then those bugs or security vulnerabilities can means get the unnecessary privileges on your other applications, and then they can get the permissions on your other applications as well. So they can try to means spoil your other applications as well. And on top of that, they can try to explore your messages. They can try to send the messages to your contents, which are the malicious messages, are the vague messages. So they can become the source of spreading the further bad things in your cell phone, or in your machine, or in, and also it can try to go for the make the more further targets as well. Top of that, it can try to install or uninstall the applications as well. means by default it can means initiate these all are the possible means issues which what we can be able to face in case if suppose our cell phone or our software or our app is going to be compromised. In addition to that, it may try to hide your some of the important processes, or it may stop to the some of the means processes, and your applications, other applications, they means will not be able to perform well. The mobile handset overall optimization will be going to down, and sometime you notice that your cell phone is going performing very slow and your machines are performing very slow. So these all things are because means at the back end the reasons are this. That's what we are discussing. Top of that, it may try to disclose your private informations to the third party, and it may destroy your data as well, and it may means try to drain your mobile resources as well, including your battery. And as we said that it may means try to means break down the performance as an overall of your means mobile phone or of your machine. So these could be the possible means issues or the security risks they can come up in case if suppose our application or our software is going to be compromised. And these are the only few what we just mentioned, but we try to come up with the different angle as we can understand that this is the compromising of any application or software. It does not mean that it is only having some limited risk to that particular application, but it has the wider spectrum, and it can means damage to our other applications, to our other contents, and even it can damage to our machine, and it can means make an optimization issue for our machine as well. So this is the most important thing we have to consider. Now, when we are saying that if suppose this is the issue, then what is happening means for the say for example, consider the Android operating system. So what is the issue? If suppose these are the things, then what is the Android operating system they are doing? What is their role? They are trying their level best to means provide the security mechanisms. So in Android, they are having the different means frameworks and different approaches where they are trying to provide the security to the applications. But as you know, as we discussed earlier as well, that the means hackers are these people, they can bypass these things. So what type of the means operating system they are providing security? They are providing a security at each level. Like suppose they are providing a security at the file level, they are providing a security suppose for the memory level, they are providing a security at the process level, and also the Android operating systems, they have a concept that's known as the sandbox. So the sandbox is a concept where means the mobile applications in Android, they don't allow the memory and the other resources of the application A with application B until and unless it is required and permissions are granted. So you can see that even means for any kind of application, even if suppose any application in the Android, if you have the experience for the Android applications, so you can see that Android application, even if suppose you want to use the internet, or if you want to use the external resources, if you want to use the resources from the other application, there is a mechanism. There is a mechanism we have to have the permissions for that. So after getting the permissions, only within that devices even we can use. But that is the general norm, even though they are means using these all of the techniques. But again, when we come up with the security attacks, then they bypass all the things. So we have to be careful, and we are not means trying to blame to the Android or iOS or any of the operating system. They are trying their level best, and they are providing the security checks at each level, even starting from the process, file management, and task management app level, like what we discussed for the sandbox. But again, the issues are there. Now, what happened? The mobile app permissions, as we just discussed for now. So these are the few permissions which are means granted by the users. So you notice that whenever you are installing your application, the application is asking from you about the different sort of the permissions. This application, what you are going to install, it requires your mic access, it requires your content access, it requires your camera access, it requires your audio access, and so on and so on. So here, as a user, because they have to be careful while they are giving the permissions, that what permissions are actually just say that they really required for that particular application, and what the permissions are not required, the user may not get. But mostly because we have the users, like saying what we are discussing nowadays, so the users are there, but those users are not trained users. And what they are doing, they are just means saying okay and installing any kind of app. So this is the one of the way which actually means create a trouble for us. So it means that whatever the Android is managing the permissions criteria for us, like suppose you can see that there is the means in Android manifest file, in the Android it is known as the manifest file. In that particular file, for anything what we are supposed to use, you can see the sample here in the XML code, that we have to go for the permissions for that one. So you can see from this slide that here it is asking for the permission for the Android permissions to receive SMS event. So it is the means phenomena or procedure where we are trying to put all of the permissions for the means Android applications. But what happened that when we are installing the application and user is giving all the permissions to the application, then it will be harmful. But now here again, we cannot blame to the user. Say for example, if suppose the user is partially responsible. In case if the user is not giving the permissions and it is providing a selective permissions, what happened in after some of the time, if its updated version is coming, and if we are means going to update any particular application, it take all the default permissions and again means update and reinstall the application. So whatever the efforts we took previously, that is gone. And you already know that we already discussed that more than 97% of the mobile apps which are available at the stores, they are already means multiple times they are hacked. So this is how means the issues and concerns are there. This is the volume, number of the volume are the huge volume, which is the hackers they are means attempting. So they are trying to find out the weaknesses from any side, from any aspect. If they find any aspect which is the weaker from the SQL injection type, or find from the means any side which is the vulnerability in the code or from the network side, because they are not concerned, they are only having a one target in how to compromise the application. So the applications can be compromised easily in case if suppose if secure codes standards are not followed. That's what we are discussing, and since our start of the semester. So we have to follow that one that can enhance the level of security at a very higher level. Now, see for the means signing up the apps while we are downloading the apps from the different app stores and from the means iOS. So we feel that the means those applications they are fine enough. They are not fine enough, but relatively they are okay. But if relatively even they are okay, we have to means follow the some of the procedures. We have to see that is this true for the means Apple Store app or not, or is this the application what we are trying to install that is the true applications from the Google Play or not? Because you remember we discussed that there are so many fake applications with the same what we can say the icons of the applications are available. We discussed previously, and maybe in this class or the other module, that you can find the so many different apps which are available in the fake, including your means Instagram app, including your battery saver app, including your means most commonly focused apps, including for your Facebook apps and those apps. So the users who are not trained users, they actually don't know that what application they are installing is that true or not. So now what is the procedure? The responsibility it goes to the user that when the user is going to install this application, it has to go to read the reviews and try to see that whatever the company which is providing that particular application, is there any other applications from here? That company is reliable or not? What the reviews they are suggesting for that one? So we have to verify by using the different means that what app we are installing, that app is the genuine and that is the original. Genuine in a means that is actually from the same company what it claimed. It is not from the fake company, and it is not from the fake users, and it's not from the fake hackers. So you can notice that how many different mechanisms there. hackers they are trying to approach to access our data. Now, problems with the Android, that's what we just discussed. That in Android, while we are installing the app, each of the app is asking for means unlimited access to our other means unlimited access to the permissions to access our other applications. So most of the time, the survey result says that most of the time we can say 90+% of the people, they don't care about that while they are installing the application, they give the complete access to them. And then what happened? This create a huge trouble for us. And other way around, in case it's supposed to be 10% who are taking care that how they can give the permissions, they again means caught once they are going to the update version. So these are the really critical means issues and the problems which can enhance the security risk for us. Because if one of the app or one of the application is compromised in our cell phone or in our machine, that can means get the access to our other applications. So even though if suppose we have the other applications as per the standard, but now those applications are also at the risk. So we have to be careful and we have to be sure that whatever we are doing and whatever we are means installing, they are not the spamming email and they are not the means spamming apps and they are not the spamming softwares as well. So this is the most important means point related to this one. Now, what are the examples of attacks? In case if suppose we install any means vulnerability or any wrong app or any access of that one. So what they do, they can easily means their malicious page, they can easily access even to our other applications. So you can see from this diagram that somehow the hackers, they only requires the one-time access to our device. So whatever the mechanism they have, whatever the procedure they reach to our particular means mobile or particular machine, then they will have so many different ways, and those ways are easy for them to means grab any kind of our contents or any kind of our data and any kind of things. So again, why we are discussing, because discussing this is not the primary role of the secure software development. As we discussed, as you remember, that secure software development is the one pillar, is the one parameter, or is the one pillar to maintain security. Because security is not only the secure software development, but security is so means far from the means this is the only one aspect of the security, but we have a lot of the aspects of the security, so we have to be careful for all of the other vectors and aspects as well. But secure software development is the primary means concern. In case if suppose we are not following the security standards while we're writing the code, then all the other aspects, even we wish to manage them or maintain them, we will not be able to manage them. But if suppose this component or this part or this pillar is strong enough, then for the rest of the pillars and rest of the aspects, we can handle them, we can enhance the security for our applications. Now, designing of security, this was the only overview that what we were discussing, that how they can reach and how they can come and how they can get access and what are the mechanisms and what are the procedures. Now, what are the designing of the security? So you can see from here, methods of the security. We cannot defeat them until we know that how the hackers are attempting, what the ways they are using. Okay, so we have to rely on these facts, and we have to know that how they know and they harm our applications. So the way we have to think like them. So you can see from here, if an attacker pointed their browser like blah 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 password.txt, they get our password, but nobody knows that this file is there. What this message is giving? This message is giving that while we are writing our code, while we are managing our things, we have to keep the things in a way where we may not disclose the information about them, because some of the things are there which we cannot control, but we can drag them in the safe zone. But while we are dragging them in the safe zone, we may not announce it publicly. We may not give the access to anyone. We may not nobody or no users can access to that particular things. But we have to keep the things very hidden, so as someone may not get access to that particular part. For another example, I've saved the sensitive data, user data, using the SQL Lite, which ends up as a file on the local file system. What it means, we are using all the our mobile applications. You notice that there are so many things. They are the data is saved in our applications. So finally, it is going to be saved somehow in our mobile. Where it is saving, how it is saving, what is the procedure, and in what format it is going to be saved. These all are the secret informations while we are writing the code. We may not disclose this. Even to our clients, we may not disclose this one, because otherwise this may create a trouble and the security risk for our applications as well. Next example is our authentication database goes down, say for example, for the 2 minutes in a 24 hours for maintenance or for any purpose. That time is a random time. So we may not disclose this time to anyone. If suppose that is the case, even it is the 1 minute or even it is for whatever the time it is, if our application or if our authentication mechanism is going down for maintenance or for anything, what happened during that time, anybody if suppose want to access the application, they are not required to follow the authentication rules, but they can access it directly. So these are the few things which are actually linked and related with the machines, with the software. And we have to be very much careful. So what it means from these all the examples from the method of the security, number one is that we are saying that we have to have whatever the weaknesses, okay, where we cannot stop them, but these things we may not disclose with anyone, even with our client. We have to keep them secret, and we have to keep them encoded, and we have to keep them safer. Okay, only you as a developer you are knowing, but nobody can know, or nobody must know about that. That is the way that we are enhancing its security as well. Then what happened? We have to force the users, okay, in the systems before they are performing any of the operations for login. We may not give them a permission, a one-time login, and then they are going for anything or any operation. Like you might notice that we are considering these things while we are working with the financial institutions. So you log in, you can see whenever you do even a simple transaction, again it will ask the OTP, or again it will ask the password and everything. Why it is asking OTP and password while you are already there, while you are already logged in? No, this is the security, enhancing the security. That is the right way we have to adopt. Okay, so this is how we have to, and we need to force that to use the secure protocols like HTTPS and the don't you consider that if suppose we are using the HTTPS and SSL and TLS and IPsec and these are the things, so we consider and we make sure that everything is fine, but we are trying to enhance the level of security, but we are not claiming that we will provide 100% security. There is no 100% security in this world. Even your financial institutions, they can be hacked. They are being hacked. So many. Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know. So force the users to use a strong password. This is another mechanism. How to force them? To force them means with the help of the code. While we are writing the code for all these things, while we can handle while we are writing the code. So we may make the standard, we may make the limit that if suppose user is providing the password up to this level, user will not be able to log in. If the user is providing the password which is only the numbers are not mix up of the different characters, and then the user will not. So these all things we can handle while we are writing the code, and those comes under the secure coding part. That's what we discussed earlier as well. Now the other way is that maybe we most of us, or most of our customers, or most of our the application user persons, they don't like it, but that is the survival of the security, that we have to give them the least privileges. We may not give them the higher privileges to anyone, because this may this may lead to the security issues or concerns at the higher risk for the application. So you remember that as we discussed the last day, that we have the privileges as we are using now the machines from home to the university, but we have the minimum level of the privileges where we can just try to fulfill our primary task. We don't have the same level of the privileges while we are inside the university, and it is the right way. So in the same way, while we are writing a program, we can give the right privileges only required up to that level, which are the least privileges. Means we may not, if suppose some person is required the 50% of the privileges out of the 100%, we may not give him even a 50.001%. We just keep them at the same level what it is required. So this is the some of the important things that we are supposed to consider while we are doing the policies and while we are writing the code. While we are writing the code, because it means we are creating the users. So whenever we are creating the users, we are creating their profiles. So those profiles may have only limited access. So whatever the admin is going to create the user, so automatically system based on the code, it only allows those capabilities or those privileges which are only required to run the software smoothly. And we try to turn off the unnecessary services. Whatever the unnecessary services are, we may not allow them. We even forcefully stop them. Even if suppose user is going to switch on, in our code, we may handle through the code that we may stop them, they are not working. In the same way, we may try to stop the ports as well. Even suppose for the browser or something, if suppose the browser, so it is using only the port, whatever the port is 80, so we just allow that port and we can stop the other things. So what I mean here, that these things we are supposed to handle at the secure coding. We may not expect this from the users, that user will be considering, our user will be following the procedures and the policies. User are, but what happened if suppose there are the 10 users, 90% even they are following, and even if 1% is not following the procedure, then again we are in trouble. So we have to take care about these all things. Then we have to sanitizing the input. This is the most important. While we are writing a code, we have to make sure what type of input we are allowing. Not only that we are allowing the input, which is this much number of the characters. No, we have to filter that. We have to see that what type of code is going to be in. Say, for example, you see from this file, what is your name if the user is providing able user. What is your favorite color? Midnight black color. And what is the further details? So he is trying to write the script. So we have to validate these things, because otherwise these things can lead to the SQL injection. This can lead to the other types of attacks. We have to force by the code that whoever the user is, he has to give the right input. He has to give the right type of input. He has to give the right format of the input. Otherwise, we may not process this request. We may not submit his data to the server. So this is something which is really, really important. Just see from this figure, you can get an idea that how the different ways the users are adopting to that. So going on, we can see that verifying that the code is secure. So while we are writing the code, we have to consider the security design processes. We have to consider the code reviews. We have to consider the secure code standards as well. We have to consider the methods and everything, that how it is. We have to consider the DOR. That's what we discussed the last day. We have to consider the process scripting as well, that maybe someone is not able to handle the process scripting. That the user is writing the google.com, but it is actually misleading due to the process scripting. It is leading to the hacker site. So we have to manage and maintain these all things. No cross scripting is allowed. If suppose the user is trying to do this, hacker is trying to do this, we have to handle this from our code. If the hacker is trying to go for the SQL injection, as you can see from the previous figure, we have to handle by controlling its input, by not only the input, what type of and what number, but we have to see each and everything. So we have to make sure these all things. We have to walk through with the code. We have to check our code. We have to check the testing of our code. We have to have the manual testing of our code. We have to see the secure requirements of our code. Whatever the things what we discussed previously, we have to see the means threat modeling. We have to apply the threat modeling. We have to see the risk assessment. We have to means follow each and every standards. And we try to make sure that once the code is coming, that is coming purely, and there will be no chance of exploiting the code. So after means going through with this module, maybe you will be actually knowing as well that how hard is the job of writing a code. So writing a code is not only to write a code and we know and we can write the code. No, how secure, how safe, with proper documentation writing a code, it requires a lot. And if we are lacking from that part, then even after our successful launch of application, we will not be able to survive. Now you can understand it why there are so many people in the software houses and how they are working and how they are planning. How many people or how many employees in the giant companies, like suppose if we see the Google company or Microsoft, the number of the employees in number thousands and even more. But when we see that what the products they are handling, so why they need this much number? So they need this much number. Because at each of these steps of the SDLC, for everything they need to these things. Otherwise, they cannot survive. Okay, going ahead. We have to have the security audits all the time, like what we say that we have to have the internal examiner, we have to have the external examiner of the code, we have to have the penetration testing of our own code, we have to use the manual testing as well, we have to use the means different tools for this, and different tools, what it means that we need the tools for finding the vulnerabilities, we need tools to finding for the bugs, we need tools means which can find the process scripting. We even after that we need to have the risk analysis, we have to have considering the threat mechanism and everything. Even after that, at the end of the day, we have to think like the hackers, that how could it be even after applying these all of the steps, what are the possibilities and what are the possible ways maybe the hacker they can means destroy or damage our softwares. So after that we can be only able to release our product. So what are the security audit questions? So many, in hundreds, probably in thousands, depend on the application. But there are the few examples, just the means we choose here for your clarity, for your understanding. So you just read the questions. What are the questions? Does your system require the secure authentication with the password? So what it means that we have to think on these points and make sure if it is required or not. It must require. It must require. Then what are the procedures what we are discussing? Are the passwords what we are means suggesting they are hard to crack? It means what? That we have to follow the standards of the password. That's what we just discussed a few slides back. Okay. Are there access control list ACLs is placed in the network devices? The password list and ACL list are we placing in the network devices? Or they will be the part of our app? Or where we are placing? So nobody can have a right to misaccess it. You remember we just discussed that the means data is being saved in our machines, so we may not update, we may not inform, we may not disclose this information. So in the same way, you can see that there are so many questions. Are the audit logs reviewed? When we done the means audit, then we not only see the audit, but did we see the logs? What type of information we are finding from the log? Are your operating system security setting to the accepted industry level or not? Means whatever the logs we are doing, whatever the test we are doing, whatever the process we are following, is that at the international standard? What it mean by the international standard? It means that if suppose we are following their particular standard, it means that our software is on a safer side. Otherwise, we will be in trouble. Have all necessary application and services been eliminated? We just discussed now. Those services which are not required, we may means make sure that we are stopping those services. We are means banning those services. We are not allowing those services. Okay, are we using the good cryptographic tools or not? So you can see that this is the sample set of questions. We may have the questions in hundreds and thousands, depend on the application, that what type of application we are. So they are actually helping us, then we are not missing any component while we are doing the audit. And you remember this doing audit is only the one part. So how many other aspects are there? Now, after doing the audit, even we have to classify the data. That what data we are requesting from the users or what data of the users we have. We have to classify the data. What it means by classifying the data, we try to define the data, what are the data types, which type of data is actually can be considered as a personal data, which type of data is can be considered as a sensitive data, which type of the data is can be considered that it is not sensitive and it can be stored at any place, which type of data can be retrieved and which type of the data cannot be retrieved. This is highly important. I just give you the one case study, or I can share my own personal experience. I was using the one of my Gmail account, and I put the means second. In case of loss of my password, I just put the means one of the mobile number that in case if suppose something happens, so they can call me and they can send me. So what happened? I changed the country. My that cell phone was for sure it was not working anymore. And after some time, I forget the password. I tried and gave you so many attempts, and that was the only my security option. And he was just forcing me, yes, this is your number, and we will send the message on this number. So you can, or either we can call on this number, then you will be only able to retrieve the password. And till today, I'm not able to retrieve the password, even though I contacted the Google team. They said, we trust you that you are the primary user, but we cannot trust that on the system that you are the real user. If you are the real user, you have to follow the pattern. If you change your number, why not you update your number? So we cannot, based on this, we cannot say that you are the real user and we can give you the access. So finally, I lost my account. So I got angry for something, but my anger is not the right, because that is what happened to me, or what happened in this particular case. That is the right thing to be standard to be handled. Then only we can be able to manage the security. So that's why we can divide the data classifications, and we can say that which data goes where. So the any data which comes to the person and sensitive, so it means we can limit that particular data, and we cannot give the access to any other application or any other resources. So that's why we are dividing the data classifications. Now, data storage locations is even another issue. You know that in Android, we are using the data storage different ways. We are using 5 different ways. Number one is the shared preferences. Maybe you are not knowing about the Android, you are not having experience, or maybe you are not aware about that. I'm just trying to give you a quick review about that so you can understand. Shared preferences is like, suppose you are using some sort of applications. You wish to set its appearance, its settings, like the applications appearance should be like this, its color should be this, and font will be like this, and the size of the font should be like this. So this is the information. It comes under the shared preferences. It stores the Android applications, the apps, they store this information in paired key values, and that is the temporary. What it means by the temporary? It is the temporary until your application is installed. The moment you uninstall your application, then the shared preference data is gone, because that is the only part of that application. This is the number one procedure. Number two is the internal storage. Internal storage, like we are using the SQLite and SQLite and so many other. And also there is the internal file system in the Android where we can store the data information there. So that particular part is actually, that is now we are storing the information in a very small files. Then the external storage, where we are storing the information on the external resources. The external resources, like suppose maybe in SD card or outside the application. The internal is the part of that particular application or particular app. Then we have the another way, which is SQLite, which is the separate database, which is the on the back end we can store the further and more information. And in the same way, then we have the network type of the storage as well, where we can store the information in the cloud. That's known as the network. Now, these all are the locations. So how we can keep them safe? How we can like just in the previous slide we said that we have to group our users' data, which is sensitive, which is personal, and which is what. So how we can manage them, that the data is stored where, what will be the location, and in what format it will be stored, And in case you suppose user wants to retrieve, then how and why and which user can do these things. So this is the overall picture that how you can means get the information about that particular part. Now we need to use the encryption while we are using the data in our app, but especially means we have to handle with the code that in case if suppose the user is trying to store the data in the SD card. SD card, as you saw in the previous slide that we discussed, that is the external resource. So in SD card, if suppose user wish to store his data, then in that particular case we have to apply encryption, because SD card is the external. Anybody can mistake the SD card out, and then it can be means put in his machine or in his mobile, and then he can read it and he can get the data. So we have to follow the procedures, means the encryption techniques, that in case if suppose user is storing the data inside the SD card, then we have to apply the encryption. So now I hope you understand it why we discuss about the external data and the other types of the data in the previous slide. Now for the mobile and plus web app. So web app is actually the one source which is actually the very scary source, because if users are hackers, users misuse it, or hacker try to get somehow the means connectivity or approach or access to that, then they will be able to get to the backend applications, and backend application is only what we can call our database. And in case if suppose database is known as the root, and any user if reaches to the root, now user can do anything, hacker can do anything. So we are actually supposed to handle this in a more better way. So now top 10 issues for the mobile apps that talks on the web, which is the OWASP. OWASP, as you remember, we are discussing all the time. That is actually means very well-known platform for the security based on the industry, and it discusses all of the case studies and real case studies which are happening on a runtime. I suggest you that you may subscribe not only for this module, but you may subscribe this one, and you will be able to means update yourself, keep yourself updated with this subscription, that you will be knowing about everything, as you are already using in your labs as well, the OWASP sources as well. So identify and protect the sensitive data on the mobile devices. These are the challenges for us. Password credentials handling, how securely, that is the other challenges. So these are the challenges what he is mentioning, and how we can protect the transit. So like suppose while we are doing any transit, how we are able to means protect that data transit. This is the other thing. And at the same way, how we are able to means make sure about the safer authentication, and how we can means make sure about the distribution and other things. So these are the means few of the sample, and they just put them in the 10. So we already discussed means in great detail about most of them. So these all are the things which are actually known as the top 10 issues for the mobile apps, and which are grouped by, are assembled by, are ranked by the OWASP. So we have to take care about these things as well. Secure web, remember, which is we already discussed about HTTPS, SSL, and TLS. I hope that you remember about this thing. So in HTTPS, where we are providing the secure mechanism, so we have to means control this with the our application or with our code, so we can sorry, we can use this mechanism to means control the different type of attacks. So you know that HTTPS is actually helping us to avoid the man-in-the-middle attack. So going back, as we discussed, that whatever the extra ports and whatever the extra means things which are not required, we are supposed to means stop them with the help of the code, and at the same time, the things which are actually means really required and really important. So we have to consider those things as well, and we have to make sure with the code that while the user is using these things, they have to be careful, and they have to be knowing about misusing about that. So we have to force them to use the right things. In the same way, now we are coming to the web security. So on the web security, you know that the most means a common attack of the web is the denial of service. And we know that what is the denial of service? It can create a trouble for the web, and it can stop accessing the web. So it can limit the access by the web for the some of the time. So we have to take care about these things and about all the possible other attacks as well. Okay, so how we can while we are doing the secure coding. So this and so on the other few other slides, they are just mentioning about the different types of the attack. We have to take care by the code that how we can perform the code, how we can write the code, how we can manage the code, so we can be able to limit them. We cannot say that we can control them 100%, but how we can limit them. So going ahead, you can see from the packet sniffing, we are doing the practical packet sniffing, maybe in this module, maybe in other modules are supposed to have the network background. So you will be knowing what is the packet sniffing. So we have to be taking care about the packet sniffing as well, in case if someone is doing this exercise and getting information from our data packets, and maybe then this becomes the reason and this becomes the cause to destroy or bring the damage to our software. So we have to take care, and we have to consider that possibility as well, that like what we consider for the DDoS, like what we consider for the main and the middle attack, we consider this possibility as well, that maybe the hackers will go for this as well. So then how we can control and how we can consider. So we can consider like what type of the solutions we can suggest them to use secure protocol like SSH, HTTPS, and we need to use encryption. So these all things we need to handle at the code level. So we have to force, what I mean, we have to force the software. We have to force the software to use these things at the code level. We may not, for most of the things, we may not, in the things which are concerned with the security, for most of the things, we may not give the option to the user. But we have to control with the code, like what we are doing for the password. So these, in the same way, we have to control with the help of the code to ensure the security of the software, not only to ensure the security of the software, but this is to ensure that the proper working of our software. Otherwise, it will create troubles for us. Okay, so we cannot rely, we cannot rely on the input of the users. In the same way, we cannot rely on the user when we cannot believe that the user is a trained user, even though the user is a trained user. But what happened in any organization, even if 1% user is not trained, then again they can create a trouble. So these things we are supposed to handle at our own hand. Password cracking. So we know that there are so many different approaches for the password cracking. There's a brute force attack, there's a dictionary attack. And brute force attack, you know that it means keep trying and come up with a possible password. And then in the dictionary, there are the different softwares that are available. In the dictionary, they are using their own dictionary. In dictionary, there's a list of the possible passwords. They are going to compare with this and trying to attempt the passwords as well. So there are the mechanisms, though those mechanisms are going to be used for cracking the password by the hackers. So we have to be knowing about these things. What it means by knowing about these things, if suppose we are knowing about these things, then only we will be able to go for the right thing. Then only we will be come up about the right thing, that how we can do the things. So we can force the users to have the secure passwords. What is the secure password? They have to follow the standard, they have to follow the length, they have to follow the combination. The system should expire their password after some time, and they have to change. Again, we are forcefully, with the help of the code, we are expiring their password, and now we keep sending the message that now your password is not changed since this month. They have to change, and while they are changing the passwords, we have to force with the help of the code that they are not allowed to, while changing their password, they are not allowed to use the same password, previous password. And we may keep the time limits that for the 1 year and for 6 months, they will not be able to use the one of the password which previous password is there and they used already before. So we have to block an IP addresses from logging any particular IP address which is trying to attempt the user these multiple logins. We have to keep the number, 3 times or 4 times or 5 times. It depends on the nature of the application. So in case suppose it is going to more attempts, we just stop him and we need to take the user to the procedure for retrieving the password, from where we can again verify that the user is the right user. So these all things again we may not keep at the end of the user, but we are supposed to handle these things at our own end. Now phishing is some other great problem. They are keep sending the phishing in the PayPal. You have this much amount. This much is the money I want to transfer to you. You are the only one. I found your email and I trust on you. I saw your profile. You are looking very good, and I'm pretty good. Means man or woman. I want to be the friendship with you. This is my personal email address, and please send me the details. Write me just only on this email so I can send you the pictures of mine. And so many means there are so many different ways they are attempting, and that is you remember the most common way to make the users fool. We can say, sorry to say that, but this is the fact. So we have to be careful about these things, that how we can handle these issues and how we can handle these problems at a maximum level at our secure code. And in case you suppose this thing or anything has happened, how much level, up to how much level we can make safe to our product. And also in case if suppose something is going to be beyond the control, then in that particular case how we can allow our software as a successful failure. So the successful failure, this is something other concept we will discuss in the upcoming lecture. So how the code can deal in case of the trouble, and in case if suppose software is going to be damaged for some of the reason. So how we can allow this safe failure or secure failure of the software. So that we will discuss later in the next classes. Most important thing, that's what we discussed the last day as well, about the DOR. And there are so many different ways, and the not only the direct object reference, but there are so many different ways as well, which is somehow if user got the higher privileges or extreme privileges, not even the extreme privileges, but the privileges more than the user's limit or user's requirement, then this is a clear indication that this will bring so many risks and so many issues for us. So we are not trying to give the permissions or not allowing to the end user to access to the database or access to the backend. If suppose only the root user is the one who is accessing to the database or at the backend. So what happens in case if suppose the user gets somehow the access to the root level, same person user, or it can access to the database, then he will be 100% powerful user, and then he can play with our system, and he can destroy, he can delete or whatever he can do. So we have to be very, very, very much careful. We have to be very much careful that we are not. This is what anybody can reach there in case if suppose we define the wrong privileges. So the privileges is the most key important, and the concern that whatever the privileges we are giving, those privileges are only whatever they required. They are required for the operations. As we discussed yesterday, as we discussed today as well, if suppose the one of the user is required privileges, which is the 50%, even we may not allow him 50.0001%. That 0.001% even can create or bring the risk for us. So we have to handle this one while we are allowing the administrator to create the profiles. At the same time, we have to think about that. Cross-site scripting. Yeah, this is the another concern. That's what we already done, which you already go through with your lab as well. In the cross-site scripting, actually what the hackers, they are playing a role. They are playing in a way that they are coming from the backside and they are using the cross-scripting, and the end user is not knowing. He is typing the Google, but it's not actually the request going to the Google, but it's going to somewhere else. So if we expect that these things can be identified by the user, or this thing can be identified by any software, or this thing can be identified by that company or customer itself, then it will create a huge trouble for our softwares. So we have to make sure that in our application, whatever the application is, that we are handling properly, that there are no chances for the cross scripting, as well as for the DOR, as well as for the SQL injection, as well as for the any other bugs or vulnerabilities. We have to follow the means international standards what we are discussing since the day first when we started this sample. So we are coming to the next, which is the SQL injection. We just discussed that we have to be very much careful that this is not like that. And we have to be very much careful. You can see the figure at the bottom. Sometimes the hackers, they try to approach in this way. Before you just go to see the figure where the one of the ladies means calling, as in this case study, to the parents and trying to get the information from the parents about their son who is in their school. So the parents, they are not verifying, not knowing that either is the teacher on the other side or not. But before that, I just tell you the one is means real case happened in Saudi Arabia as well. One of the professor, he was rushing for his class. What happened? He received a call, and he received a call from the banking sector, and they asked him that there is a problem in your account and blah 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 blah. They make a very attractive and beautiful story, and they asked him that what is your PIN code or something not exactly the PIN code, but some other related information what they require. And he was rushing for the class. He said, okay, this is this. And then he kept the mobile on a silent and he started his class. So that was the financial sector. Whenever any transaction is going to happen, you always receive SMS. So he was receiving the SMS, but his mobile was on silent. He was not knowing. After the class, he saw that there are multiple SMSs there. When he opened the SMS, so he can see that this much amount is transferred here, this much successful transaction is done. Anyhow, he noticed equivalent to the 20,000 of the ringgit amount in Saudi Riyal. It was gone. He rushed to the bank and he said that this happened to me. They said, we cannot do anything because these all things done following the natural process. So we don't know that this is done by you or by anyone else. You are saying that this happened to me, I received a call and blah, blah, blah. But the whole procedure is followed, the steps followed for the transactions, they are equally right. So you don't have a legal right to claim. So what I mean that we have to be very much careful about these other things, okay, while we're writing the code. Okay. Now, thinking like a hacker, finding out the vulnerabilities, like what these cases we discussed. Okay, about the process scripting, about the SQL injection, about the mobile apps, about the DDoS attacks, about the man-in-the-middle attacks, about the possibilities of the weaknesses, about the vulnerabilities, and about the receiving the fake calls and so many things. So we have to think in a very wide spectrum as the hacker when we done after applying all of the security check. And then we can see that what is the parameter, or what is the weakness, or what is the area, or what is the thing is still there is a room from where they can. So we need to provide the solution for that particular part as well. So how, after thinking like this, we have to view our source code again and again. We have to see about the scripting. We have to see about the IP mechanism. We have to see that what protocols we are applying, what encryptions we are applying, what mechanism we are allowing, what ports we are using, and what things we are not using, and what things are actually suppose we are not using, and what are we are blocking, and these things. And also we come up with the error messages, which is the standard error messages. Like you can see it sometimes we receive the error message, only the code 200 and 400 and 403 and 404 and 400. Even those log messages, they are not in detail from where hacker can get the information. Those are the standard, internationally standard messages. So the person can run the program if suppose he faced the issue and he can receive the code, then from the code he can recognize it what type of the issue is. Like suppose 500 is the internal server error, like a 200 is okay, like the 400 is invalid request, like the 404 is the file not found, like the 403 is forbidden, and so on and so on. So these are the international standard. We are supposed to follow them accordingly. And now the most dangerous thing is our most easiest way, or the most charming way for hackers is the forms. When we are designing a form to invite some information from the user, that is the easiest way for them to get into our applications. So we have to make sure that whatever the procedures we are using, we are getting the information through using the get method or the post method. We have to make sure that all of the things are means appropriately and very fine, and there is no chance and there is no issue and there is no problem in it. Okay, we are taking care about all of things like we just discussed a few slides back, you remember. Okay, so these things we are supposed to handle. So farm are the critical things we have to apply completely. How we can handle them? We can apply the validation processes on the client side and on the server side. We does not allow without verification the information to send to the server, because once the information sent to the server, then it will be a problem, even though we have to apply the scripting methods on the server as well. Anyhow, we have to be very much pretty careful, because this is the weak point of our application, which is the form. So we have to take care from different aspects to make it sure that everything is at the right angle. So you can see from here the some other examples from where the users they can use the forms and then they can bypass the information and they can be able to enter inside the application, and they can bring the harm pass. So we have to be careful about these things, which is the more critical part of our application in the code. Now, there are the different mechanisms, okay, like what we discussed about the yesterday about DOR, that the users they are trying to guessing some information. Like if the user is finding the page number 11.php or login failure.jsp or accounts and FRED or page 1.2. So we may not use this mechanism, the page 11.php. So it means that now the hacker or the person, they can realize that this is page 11.php, that maybe there is a page 10, 18, and 19 and so on in the back. So I be curious to know that what those pages are containing. So maybe some of the pages means not authorized, or the other pages must not be authorized by the user to reach there. So we have to be careful from these things. We have to be careful, otherwise these things can create a huge trouble for us, and then the user can reach to the directories, to our directories, and then they can do the harm for our applications. That what we discussed yesterday about the DOR, and this is also we may not come up, we may not show in that way, so they can reach to that particular part. What are the other threats? Other threats are as well so many. Attacking the get parameters. Okay, so we have to be careful. Attacking the hidden input feeds, attacking the cookies, cross references, like what the things we discussed now. These all could be the possibilities, so they can come up and damage or destroy our applications. So we have to be careful about these all things. So secure testing, secure coding, secure validation, secure planning, secure requirement means each and everything is equally important. If we are skipping any one of the part from it, then it means that it will lead us to some of the issues which may create a trouble for us. Okay, thank you very much. This is what about today. And here the credit goes to the Washington University, which is the Ms. Marty Stepp. He's a professor for the secure software. So thanks to him, and I hope that you understand all of the things. We are trying to have the resources from the multiple resources, as you can be updated and as you can be knowing that what things are being used at the international standard level. So you are again not limited to any particular book or any particular part or any particular resource or any particular thing, but you can be open. Just try to understand the concept, and we can use any contents from anywhere. Thank you very much. If you have any question, please let me know. And meanwhile, I can open your attendance. So if you have a question, please let me know. I hope you understand the things very well. No question? Okay, then we are going to stop the recording, and then we are going